Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 119 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I share in every episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa trance psychedelic dance movement. And we are still in tracks, sort of in this series of tracks that I came across in the autumn of 97 through to the summer of 98. Although this one I actually first heard without having an idea of what it was in August 97 at that unbelievable Blue Room party that took place. It was amazing. It was one block from my place. Sorry, one station from my place, which in London, they always say just down the road in the UK, when sometimes that means 50 miles down the road. But I was actually literally able to walk back from this particular party, which was a nice change. Amazing, amazing Blue Room party, which I've talked about with Coxbox, Extreme, and I think Total Eclipse wasn't able to make it, and Juno Reactor, and Mike DJing. And when Mike DJ'd, he played this track that Man with No Name, Martin Freeland, was dancing to behind him. And I was like, sounds like a Man with No Name track. Must be a Juno Reactor remix, but I didn't recognize the original. And turns out it was released almost exactly a year later in August 98. It was the Man with No Name remix of Jardin de Cécile, the opening track on Juno Reactor's Bible of Dreams, the epic, one of the all-time great albums, which, I featured a track from Comet a couple of episodes prior to this one. And so this came out on this really interesting Blue Room compilation. There were not enough Blue Room comps, I think. I mean, they did some interesting sort of, like Made on Earth being like multiple CDs and so on, but a whole range and, very, very eclectic stuff. But this is more of the kind of, what we would consider, the four on the floor sort of stuff that we might be into. There's some really amazing things, and this is a one-off. Because some of the other stuff, I think appeared more widely and on albums and things, and this is just this one-off remix, of Man with No Name, who's really got, his style, and Juno Reactor, that's really got their style, and it's a kind of interesting crossover. Now, we already covered, how during this period there was the remix that Man with No Name had done of The Loin King, of The Infernal Machine, but it was actually a solo Simon Prosford track. And because Martin was under contract to Perfecto, he wasn't able to provide original compositions for release on other labels, but he was able to do remixes. And so this one ended up there. And nobody who I've talked to amongst the artists and label manager seemed to remember who asked him to do it. So I was jogging everybody's memories of, don't remember that one. Don't remember how that came to be. So in any case, it came to be. And I think it's a bit of an overlooked one, unfortunately, because I think it's got a lot of, a lot of the classic stuff that we, Men with No Name fans adore, and just an interesting reworking. Now, the original, as I mentioned when I did the feature on Comet, all of the tracks in Bible of Dreams relate to, in a sense, have a dreamlike connotation. And the Jardin de Cécile was had to do with quite a sad story of a French girl who was killed and found by the motorway in England, and her father carved Jardin de Cécile. Cécile was her name, the Garden of Cécile, on a tree nearby. And Ben was very moved by this, and he had just had a daughter as well, and so it struck him, and he's created this track. And so, of course, as is the case with remixes, there are elements that are the same, and there are elements that are completely different. And there's no way of knowing, listening to the track exactly what the inspiration was, and that doesn't necessarily carry over into this one. but certainly some of the musical elements do. And there's, of course, that very distinctive Man with No Name touch. Very rhythmic, great bounce. Some of the sounds that are familiar. And then, of course, there's these Juno riffs, some fantastic percussion. It's really interesting hearing how that gets worked in. And as usual, there's that upbeat Man with No Name atmosphere. And as is the case with a lot of these early tracks I've been talking about, listen to the rhythm and how it's not always focused on the main beat. There's always something syncopated. So the rhythm has this forward momentum because things don't always fall just on the first beat or on the strong beat. And that, I think, is really interesting. So how about, without further ado, we're going to work some French into English, as with the inspiration of the story, let's hear the Man with No Name remix of Jardin de Cécile by Juno Reactor. So quite a cool opening. Just really light and airy, right? So you recognize those whooshes from the original then. Like that call and answer. And notice how everything is so impeccably layered. And the kick. Right, very familiar from the original. Then very cool. Notice the rhythm of that bass line. And that wonderful voice. Beautiful intervals, beautiful aerated sound. And again, notice how clearly you can tune into the bass line and then you hear that. You can turn into that upper voice, still hear the bass line. It's amazing engineering. And this extra little voice here. Notice that that's syncopated as well. Then we have this smooth. So, you have different textures as well, because you have this chopped up stuff that's a bit more bouncy, and then you have, right, that's from closer to the original sort of lyrical opening of the master version of the track. That Man with No Name bit, sort of typical kind of sound going up. Kick. Notice the accenting. That's a feature of the original. Just the interplay along, again, all of the different spectral levels, and just the way they're so transparent, and then this beautiful shift here. And then the way that bass line, that little bouncy riff comes in after the little break. Cool other percussive element. Kick again. See, those little breaks, it then leads into something else. It's like that voice just goes right into something that, signals a development. Logical structuring. Classic Goa kind of sound. This little clearing. There's that beautiful riff that's in the opening of the original. Notice again the rhythm of that bass line and how that works with the lyrical main riff. percussive element together with that bounce. We're going to have some new voices coming in as well as the whole track is evolving and developing. Right, so some chopped up bits from the main riff that's reorchestrated and reconfigured. Still have those bounces going on in the background. With that lovely bounce. And just again, the different characteristics that coexist harmoniously. That's what I love about this scene. And notice how some of the other percussive elements came out. So it's like a little breathing room. And again, we get this. Beautiful interval. Just incredible combination of riffs. Then we get back into that lyrical pad. Very dreamlike and evocative. Percussive stuff sort of further in the background now. Little breathing room. Just such a beautiful evocative riff, right? And the way it's represented in this particular mix. Love the use of percussion as well to signal those next little phases. And the track starts to unwind. Wow. Now, it ended quite suddenly on the CD and went straight into another track. So I did an extra little fade over there, just so it'll be a little bit more mixable and not jarring. But wow, I think this is a great, wonderful, bouncy, lively, energetic number. Of course, I still got the visual of up, sort of on the right-hand side of the stage where Mike was playing and Martin sort of bouncing around behind him. Back in August '97, and I don't remember where I got the CD. I mean, I was living in Tokyo at the time, so it would have been somewhere there. Doesn't have the sticker on it, so it might have been sealed. But in any case, it's a real favorite. I think it's just sort of slid by a little bit as some tracks did, and I really like it. Right? Completely different in a way from the original, right? I mean, let's face it, Juno is Juno, and any remix of it is going to be completely different. And the artists leave their own stamp, of course, when they do a remix. And so certainly love the original and love to play that. And for a different twist, for a different kind of vibe, I think this is a great one. So there we go. I'm going to sign off here and let you hear the whole track without my commentary. I'm Mark DJ Solitaire, wrapping up episode 119 of Retro Goa Explorations and leaving you with the Man with No Name remix of Juno Reactor's Jardin de Cécile.